If vaccines work, why are vaccinated people still banned from living normal lives? Honestly, what's the answer to that? It doesn't make any sense at all. If the vaccine is effective, there is no reason for people who have received the vaccine to wear masks or avoid physical contact. So maybe it doesn't work, and they're simply not telling you that.
Fox host Tucker Carlson is one of many in the right-wing media casting doubt on life-saving COVID vaccines, even as unvaccinated Americans continue to drive up COVID case numbers. Let's talk about this now with former Fox News chief political correspondent Carl Cameron. He is now the co-founder of Front Page Live. And I wonder, I think I know the answer, but I want to know from you, why are hosts like Tucker Carlson doing this?
It's about ratings.
Just money.
And ratings ultimately become revenue. And that's the name of the game. Whoever gets the most clicks on social media makes the most money, gets the most fame, gets the most attention. And that type of activity is not journalism. It's not news. It's gaslighting. It's propaganda. I mean, just last week, new infections went up 70%. And according to the CDC, the NIH, which oversees the CDC, it is absolutely 99.5% of those infections are people who haven't gotten vaccinated. I mean, come on. Anybody who disputes that sort of stuff is putting people's lives at risk and potentially killing them.
No question about it. And we see this red state, blue state divide in vaccinations. So you say it's about a business model. Isn't killing your own supporters a bad business model?
Absolutely. It makes no sense whatsoever. This is literally the metaphor of the lemmings running to their own slaughter. People who are listening to that sort of stuff instead of the science, which goes way, way back, we would not be the world we are today if it weren't for penicillin. These types of things are real, and to suggest that they're not, particularly if you have no education in science and medicine, it is just plain lying to the American people and putting them at risk of death. We now have this situation. I mean, we saw Sanjay over there in Japan. An American athlete at the Olympics is out, and God knows how sick he could get. This is wrong for journalists to be doing this, or people who call them that, whether it's Fox or One America Network or Newsmax. These are all cable channels that are perpetuating lies, and it has to be stopped. In fact, I've been working hard. We've got a coalition going on now called Persuasion US with a number of organizations, institutions, activists across the country. It's an incredibly diverse group. And for Republicans of goodwill who understand that what's happening to the Republican Party and the country as a consequence of what Trump and the far right did is really, really dangerous. And it's time for the left. Democrats need to start fighting the way Republicans do. There's no such thing as a one-year presidential race. It's all 4 years. It's 24/7 on the Republican side, raising money, making up stories, trying to denigrate half of the country who are on the left-hand side of it. And that includes those people of color in many cases. And it has to stop. There are organizations all over the country who are trying to fight this disinformation disease. And we're joining that fight, and we need a lot of help. It's going to take money, and it's going to take time, and we need to start doing it now because the Republicans have been doing it all the way since the beginning of the year for the upcoming congressional races next year, and the White House 3 years from now.
And I know that's part of a letter that you and others wrote to the DNC and to Democratic funders. You know, I always wonder as I'm watching these insane claims, they just seem so nuts, and yet you know that there are millions of people watching them and believing them. And I always wonder, you know, is that guy vaccinated? Maybe, very probably. And I would like to know. I would like to know when it comes to the kind of drivel that is coming out about vaccines. Do you think that Fox hosts like Laura Ingraham, like Tucker Carlson, should say whether or not they themselves chose to take the vaccine?
As a journalist, I'll tell you, I had a Moderna shot. I got it in March. And I think anybody who comes on television and talks about coronavirus with any kind of authority has to explain where they stand. It is inconceivable to me that people who won't explain what they're doing for their own health when they're trying to inform the United States of America. The hypocrisy of it and the danger of that potential falsehood, saying, yeah, I've got one, and not having one, is exactly the kind of deceit that Trump started even before he was elected.
And to that point, explicitly, I mean, Donald Trump hid the fact that he got vaccinated in January.
Right.
Why would he not take credit for that? The Operation Warp Speed being enormously successful, but it begins with the ex-president of the United States who hid that. Let me ask you this. When you talk to your former colleagues at Fox, you were there for years. What do you say to them about this danger of becoming complicit in a disinformation effort that's killing people?
Well, there are still some good, solid, fair-minded journalists at Fox, and I don't ever want to malign them. But it is the opinion hosts who aren't journalists per se. They're talking heads. And their job, their reward is bringing eyeballs on television. And all they really got to do is keep people watching until it's commercial time, and then it's ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching for the network. And it works really well in prime time, but it's not news. And there are people within the organization who've been let go. There are people who have departed, and some of them are good journalists who have already landed elsewhere, which says something that there is a bit of I wouldn't say it's an employee problem for the company yet, but a lot of talented people have decided to go elsewhere.
Yeah, it is a sad situation. I think when we watch some of what is happening with what some of these hosts are saying, it's gross, quite frankly.
The bottom line is this country needs to begin to have a conversation again. And even families that have stopped talking to one another, it's time to try to have a conversation with your loved ones, even if you disagree with them. Make sure that they understand that you're worried about their health. Give them an opportunity to hear some truth. Don't yell at them. Don't make it nasty. Try to be empathetic. People have been disillusioned and people have been gaslit, and they don't understand it. It's not their fault that they listened to their president. For the last 250 years, our leadership has been fairly reliable. It was not so in the last 4.
It's such an important point. Reaching out to try to bridge those divides from a position of empathy, not judgment, because that might help turn this tide of disinformation. Carl Kim, thank you very much for joining us on New Day.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.